This episode is brought to you by Ferrero. Soccer's biggest stage is approaching, and Ferrero is making it easy to go all in. Pick any two Ferrero brands from Kinder Bueno to Ferrero Rocher, and you could win the $1 million grand prize, plus an exciting range of daily and weekly prizes. Don't miss your shot. Official rules apply. Learn more at goallinandwin.com.
Refreshing wild cherry cola meets smooth cream. The treat you deserve. Pepsi Wild Cherry and Cream. Treat yourself.
Maryland sports fans, there's only one sports book in the great state of Maryland with over 50 years experience booking bets and supporting customers. Betfred Sportsbook at Longshots is now open and is the only sportsbook in Frederick offering cash betting on football, basketball, world soccer, and more. Visit the Betfred Sportsbook at I-270 and MD-85 in Frederick, right next to Longshots off-track betting. Go to betfredsports.com for more information and your chance to win exclusive merchandise. Must be 21 or older. Play responsibly. For help, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Hey everyone, this is Todd Latore from Queensrÿche, and you're listening to The Hook Rocks with Jay Scott.
It's okay, it don't really matter if you see it my way. Finger on the trigger, no it's not your day. Funny how the money makes you go insane. Pull it to the brain, it's okay, it don't really matter if you see it my way. Finger on the trigger, no it's not your day. Funny how the money makes you go insane. Pull it to the brain. Reload, I'm out. Don't run your mouth. There's no way out. Surrender to me now. Bullet to the head, you're dead, dead, dead. I can see a thing, just red, red, red. Angel and the devil inside my head, but they fled. Nothing left to do, it's over. Get some rest, you're 6 feet down. It's okay, it don't really matter if you see it my way. Finger on the trigger, no it's not your day. Funny how the money make you go insane. Pull it to the brain, it's okay, it don't really matter if you see it my way. Finger on the trigger, no it's not your day.
Good evening, everybody. Once again, it's Jay Scott. This is the Hook Rocks, the Ultimate Rock Community Podcast. Hope you're doing well, staying safe, staying healthy. Spring is upon us. The weather is warming up. Things are starting to turn green instead of looking dead with the brown grass and the dead leaves. It sounds like a White Stripes song. I think I'm on to something there. But nevertheless, we continue to be an escape for you, offering music interviews, talking rock and roll, great music commentary on a variety of topics. Once again, we're part of the Pantheon network of music podcasts, so check out older episodes of The Hook Rocks along with a plethora of other great podcast shows on the network. But we continue to be an escape for you and hope you enjoy all the things we discuss here in rock and roll. And I know the weather's warming up, like I just mentioned. COVID numbers are getting better. I hope it's not under false pretenses. I hope we keep getting, better news each day. People are getting vaccinated. Hopefully live shows are ready to begin again. There's a whole lot of live, or new music, I should say, coming out in 2021. Hopefully that equals a whole bunch of live shows too at some point. I know we're all ready for it, being rock and roll fans, but I'd like to welcome in our next guest, Mr. Bryan Kuznitz from the band Fame on Fire. How are you, Bryan? What's going on?
I'm doing great, Jay. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, thanks. Appreciate you doing this. Been looking forward to having you on here and talking music, talking Fame on Fire, and talking, what's next for you guys as well as what's currently going on.
Yeah, totally. Let's do it.
We always start the same way every time we do a podcast with a new guest, first-time guest, and that is the essence of the show. Just like every rock song has a hook that sucks you in, every rock fan has a moment, whether it's a song, an album, a band, or performance, that hooked them on rock and roll. What was it for you?
I mean, I feel like I have two, if that's okay. My first one would have to be, I think it was the first time I ever heard Crawling from Linkin Park when I was I think I was don't even know what grade I was in. I think I was like in second grade, or not even, maybe like kindergarten. First time I ever heard Crawling from Linkin Park, it blew my socks off. I was like, what is going on here? This is crazy, and it sounds so good. And being like 5 years old, it wasn't like scary to me or anything like that. Which is, I look back and I'm like, that's kind of weird. But it was just so sick, and it was just revolutionary. And I didn't even know it at the time. I thought I was like the only kid, listening to this kind of music. And then you go to school and you find out that, okay, everybody's listening to Linkin Park now. So that was my first encounter with rock, and that's what really got me into it. And then, I strayed away for a little bit, went into other areas like, hip hop and R&B, that kind of stuff. And then what got me back into rock, or the heavier, more metal side of things, was Disturbed's Prayer. I remember hearing that and seeing like the music video for that. I was like, this is so sick. And I think that was like maybe in like 2002, 2005, somewhere around there, early 2000s. So that song got me back into it and really got me hooked into the heavier, more metal side. And then, from there I went into like Killswitch Engage, Avenged Sevenfold, really took the dive into the heavy metal hard rock scene.
Where did it go from there in terms of your development, your evolution into an artist? I mean, you heard this music, the music pulled you in, it hooked you. When did it become something that you wanted to do, like perform on stage and be in a band?
When I started listening to Avenged Sevenfold, that's when everything kind of really started changing, because just the way that they played was better than anybody else I was listening to. I think it's better than any other band that was around during that time. They quickly became my favorite band overnight. And I remember like City of Evil, just listening to that record and just all the crazy guitar shit that was going on that record. I was like, wow, it was so cool. It was so good. And I was just like, I want to be able to do that. I want to play guitar just like Sinister Gates is playing guitar. So I don't even remember what I did. I think I was like buying candy bars and reselling them at school. And I saved up like, I think $150 or something like that. And I went on eBay and I bought a guitar amp combo. It was some real piece of shit guitar amp combo, but I bought it, started playing the hell out of it because I wanted to be a guitar player. Prior to that, I sang in some choirs and stuff like that, but I wanted to play lead guitar. I wanted to be a shredder. And so started practicing guitar a lot. And then I think I was like around maybe like 14, 15, something like that. Started playing a lot of guitar. And then a year into it, I ended up getting a nicer guitar because my dad and my parents were like, oh, he's taking something seriously in his life finally. So let's see if we can capitalize on this and maybe give him some like direction in life. And so my dad bought me a relatively nice guitar, which was a Schecter because that's what Avenged Sevenfold played. And I started playing guitar constantly, joined a band, in the first year I'm playing guitar. And from there, that's really where it all began, diving into music. Started recording myself at an extremely young age. Like I think like 16, I began to learn how to record music. Just started making music. And I guess it all just kind of came to where I'm at today, where now I'm a singer and I don't play guitar anymore.
It's interesting. How did that evolution happen?
Well, I was in a band with the boys, with Alex and Blake. We were in a band called You Set Aside, and we were a fairly mediocre nu metalish band, I guess I would say. Our music was kind of boring, I'm gonna be honest with you. But we were in a band prior. I played lead guitar in that band. Blake played rhythm guitar. Alex was a drummer, and we had a singer who was completely out of his fucking mind. Normally how it goes, right? So that band eventually broke up, and I was like, I don't want to be in a band anymore. I'm done with bands. Now, my whole life I've sang in choir, So, I was good. I was a good choir boy. Actually, I was probably the worst of them. I was such a hooligan, I guess I would say. But, so I had, training in singing. I knew how to sing. I didn't know how to sing rock though. Very different singing in a choir where you're trying to blend with everybody. So I, experience with singing, and, I think it was around 2013, the end of 2013, when Alex wanted to do a drum cover of Katy Perry's Unconditionally. And Blake was like, yeah, this would be sick if, you threw some guitar on it and it became like more of a rock cover. And then Alex was like, okay, well, who are we going to get to sing this rock cover? And Alex was like, hey, Brian, can you sing it? And I told him, absolutely not. I'm not a singer. I'm a guitar player. Right. And he's just like, well, I know you sang before. And I'm like, yeah, but I don't know how to sing rock or anything like that. And then eventually, after me saying no and no and no and no so many times, they convinced me to go in the vocal booth and just try to sing it. And also keep in mind, this is at my home studio, where I was just being an engineer, recording everything under the sun. And so I went into the vocal booth. I hit the vocals for this cover, and it came out really sick. And I didn't know I could sing the way I sang. And I guess at that moment was when I became the singer of Fame on Fire. It was when I realized that I actually can sing and I can sound good singing.
As you kept evolving into being a singer, obviously you start to write music and you're writing lyrics and you're, singing words that you believe in. When you write music, are you writing about experiences? Are you writing about observations? Where do you get your motivation, your inspiration to write?
Sometimes I write about a little bit of, like, it's both, like, honestly. Sometimes I will write from a personal experience. A lot of levels is personal experience. But there's also a couple songs on there that I didn't write about personal experience. I wrote from observing my friends and how they're reacting, or, almost like there was one song on there. Down was a song where I kind of wanted to put myself in somebody else's shoes. And so to see kind of like where they're coming from and kind of understand their mindset on things. So that was from me observing somebody else. Like, that's how those lyrics came about, was me observing them in the situation. Now, at the same time, it's still part of me in a weird way, because I feel like the lyrics on all levels have like darker tones to them. And I feel like that's because, they come from me, and I'm just, I guess, a more negative type person than the average person. And so I tend to look at things as a glass half empty more than a glass half full. So I guess it's just my perception and my emotions on somebody else's emotions when it comes down to that.
When you're writing lyrics and you're having to revisit an experience, whether it's a happy experience, a sad experience, one that makes you anger, whatever the emotion is, you have to tap into that memory, that situation. And it's a sense of vulnerability when you're doing that, because you're having to relive something that may be uncomfortable. How do you deal with that? How is that process for you?
It's insanely driving. So it's really weird, but for me, it just drives me to finish the song, because the moment you actually tap into that like emotional state of mind, like, you have so much shit to say. You have so many lyrics to write down. Like, you could say everything. And it's untapped until you tap in, and you just keep going. Like for a topic for like Her Eyes, I could have kept going forever, writing lyrics, and it doesn't bring me back into like a negative state of mind. It's more of a remembering, and it's like it's a therapeutic type thing, because when you get it all out, you feel like pretty relieved. So it's nice. It really is nice.
When you're dealing with that vulnerability and you're having to, have that therapeutic experience. Is there anything that you have experienced that is maybe too difficult to write about?
On LP1, yeah, there was, but we're currently working on writing LP2 at the moment, and so LP2, I have kind of faced that fear, and I wrote the song, and that particular song it's one of those songs that just needs to be all screaming for it to make sense, because it's the most hate-filled song I've ever written in my life. But yeah, there's been times where it's like I'm not going near this topic. This is not something I want to touch. I'm not ready to deal with it emotionally. But yeah, it's just, I think, it's so weird. You feel like, oh, maybe I got everything out. Maybe I got it all out. But then you go back to the pen again. You're like, there's a lot more shit I could say on this topic. There's another story to be told about one of these experiences I've gone through, or one of these experiences that I've seen one of my friends go through. There's a lot more that I could say about this to kind of reiterate it, to get it even more to the point, less vague. So, and for me, it's also a big thing where it's like, whenever I write lyrics, I know that there is somebody else out there going through whatever I'm writing about. Somebody else is going through a similar thing. And, that makes it comforting for me to write these lyrics down, because it's like, I know I'm not alone, and I want to make this person out there to feel like they're not alone.
When you are writing lyrics and you're writing music, and you're going through a situation that you've dealt with, do you ever find yourself thinking of, maybe I should have handled something differently, or maybe there's a different perspective that you have once you're removed from whatever it is that you're writing about?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Really thinking about what we're working on these days, but it's like there's a song where it's like, I recognize that I was the bad person in this situation. I'm no saint. I'm not always the victim in my life. That I realize that I've made other people the victim of my actions. And so there's definitely, songs that, like, I sit down to write about one thing and I'm just like, I'm going to write this song about how this person did this to me. And then I start like writing it, and I realize, and I start rethinking about the situation. I'm like, wow, I was such a bad person. Like, I handled this totally wrong. And so, like, I think about that, and I'm just like, well, this song is now about how much of an asshole I am.
Does a song ever take on different meaning, from the original inspiration?
Yeah, for sure. It's also up to interpretation of everything, because everything can have a different meaning. Like, when I wrote Now and Forever, everybody in the band thought it was about something completely different. Even back to writing the song Wait, which was an interesting one, because it's one of our earlier singles, I think from 2017 or 2018. It wasn't on the album at all, but that song was, people, I'm not sure what people in the band actually thought it was about, but it was actually about the band itself. So, I think lyric meaning can change, but at the end of the day, I feel like the initial draft of at least what I wrote down is usually going to be what the song is about. Unless it's like one of those situations where I was like, okay, I need to actually talk about how I'm the bad person in this situation.
It's an interesting thing when an artist who's writing the lyrics, has to tap into a situation that's uncomfortable or something that they weren't really fond of when it was happening, and you're writing it and you're being expressive about it, and you're figuring out, you're navigating through it once again. A lot of people can't do that. A lot of people, when they have a situation that conjures up a lot of emotion, they don't want to go relive that emotion again, because it's exhausting, and it just brings up a painful feeling or a not so good time. So when you do write about it and you're having people listen to it, you're having your fans listen to that, that's also a very unique experience, because here you are, bearing your soul, right? Laying it all out, and now people are listening to it, and it's like that situation that maybe only you knew about or only you knew of that experience is now being listened to by thousands of people, and that's a pretty heavy thing.
Yeah, I think it's cool. I'm like, I love the idea of it. Because I mean, like I said, there's everybody. I feel like there's people that have gone through the same shit that I'm writing about. Even though I know there's people that don't want to relive their past or anything like that. For me though, I love living in the past. It seems like, because I feel like that's what makes a really great songwriter is like understanding your past, understanding mistakes, understanding other people's mistakes, understanding who did you wrong, who you did wrong, understanding the good things, the bad things. And, you find a lot of that from your past. And so you can, you look back in your past and you can really see where things are going in your future, in a sense.
I imagine too, there has to be a lot of self-awareness when you're doing that, like you really have to have a perspective of yourself and, your behavior and your actions and how, that affected a situation. And that's not always the case with, experiences. It could be about somebody who did this to you or who did that to you. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it's how you're reacting to it. So there has to be that awareness of, an ownership of personal behavior.
Yeah, there does. I feel like it can also become like an ego thing too, at the end of the day. Like when, because I may perceive a situation one way and you could perceive a situation a completely different way than the way I'm perceiving it. Like, you're usually 99% of the time the hero in your story. So, sometimes I do think a lot about how like, I mistreated this person. Wow. I was mistreated heavily right here. But, majority of the time, I think that, I don't know. I don't want to say I have like a good grasp on like reality and self-awareness because it comes off very egocentric and maybe I don't, but I think I do at least. It's weird because I don't want to come off like egocentric. Like, for example, but there's also singers out there and songwriters that, are just bad people that see things in a different way than pretty much the rest of the world. And, I've heard horror stories of that, but everybody, majority of the time people think that they're in the right. So I just don't ever want to be the guy that thinks, oh, I'm in the right in this situation. I kind of want to always look at every situation that is like from playing devil's advocate. So it's like, what could I have done better in this situation?
Also, too, you're giving a voice to people who don't know how to express themselves. So when they connect with a song that you've written that is similar to something that they've experienced, and they can't maybe express it on how they feel or how a moment in time made them feel, the lyrics kind of act as like a catalyst of being able to speak for them, right? Being able to, a lot of people they used to when I was younger, they would make tapes of certain things and certain songs that kind of connected with each other because that's how they would feel when they would hear that music or they would be able to tap into a memory. So it has a way of speaking not only to people, but also for people as well.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. Like I said, like there's fans out there, there's listeners out there that gone through the same thing that I've gone through, but they just don't know how to say it. They don't know how to put it into words. And, I feel like that's what I'm here for. I'm here to put your emotions and my emotions into words. And so, that's what really gets people connected to a song is the lyrical content. Like, I like some of my favorite songs of all time just are the lyrical content that I connect to so emotionally.
The new album is Levels, and you guys have released music to coincide with that, videos as well. When you're involved in a pandemic, when you're living in a pandemic and you have new music that you're putting out, how difficult is it to kind of just release music and basically not do what you're normally going to do, which means like touring and promoting it. What is that space like?
I feel like for the normal band, it would be easy, or I'm sorry, it'd be hard for the normal band in a situation like this. But I feel like for Fame on Fire, at least, we're very lucky. We started our base on the internet. We've only had a handful of tours that we've done. We've never done an international tour. We've never done a tour with a major headlining act. So our presence is very much bound to internet presence. So, in a pandemic like this, where it's like you can't go outside, where everybody is on the internet all day, every day, I feel like we made the best of what we could and what we had. Would we have loved to tour on this album? Hell yeah. I still think we are going to tour on this album. But, by the time we go on tour again, there might be another couple singles out from the new album. So it's unfortunate that we didn't get to like tour and see the world with these batch of songs, but the good songs from this batch will definitely be played at the future shows. But yeah, it didn't hurt us too bad though, because internet is powerful and we have a powerful online presence. So our fans that are there from the internet originally, day ones, they knew the music was coming. They listened to the music. They've jammed the album. I don't even know where the album's at on the streams. I know on Spotify it's somewhere over 18 million or something like that. But so it's going the best it can for the situation being as shitty as it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. It's just a weird time, and every band or artist has maybe approached things similarly or done the same thing, or maybe just done something completely different. As far as creativity goes, you mentioned that you have another album on the way. How was the creative process for you, for the band during this time?
It was great. It was really great. It's weird. It's like, it's good and bad. So, being locked up inside for a long time definitely sucks. For me at least, it put me in a really negative state of mind, because I couldn't go outside, couldn't see my friends, couldn't do anything. So that put me in a really negative state of mind. But, we basically said, fuck all this. The only people we see is each other. We are very safe people when it comes to going outside, seeing our relatives, our loved ones, always wearing a mask. Around each other, we don't wear masks or anything like that. But we're like, we're sick of we're not going to just sit here and not work on music while COVID's happening. We know it sucks outside. We're going to be responsible. We're going to get tests every other week or so. And we're just going to make sure that we're knocking out this album and working on new music because we need to. Like, you can do so much by yourself, but it's not the same when you have a band of exceptional musicians and songwriters, and you can't work with them. So we basically all said, "Fuck it, we're getting in the studio, we're working together," and we've been doing it now for a few months and just making some great songs.
I imagine too, it offers an escape for you guys, right? I mean, I imagine that, when the world is burning down, so to speak, with a pandemic and, riots and protests in the summer and an election process that was just crazy, to kind of seclude yourself and kind of go into a bubble where you're making music and you're being creative. It kind of does offer that escape for you to kind of just focus on the music, because there's really anything that's going on outside these walls is negative right now. So let's just focus on making new music.
Yeah. And, a lot of that's happened, especially in the past, I think 4 months or so, we've really taken it more seriously. I mean, this month has been insane. We are literally booked every single day in the studio, which the studio is my home studio. So it's not like we're going to any other studio. We're all at my house. Like, everybody's over at my house right now. They're working on music. but yeah, it's just great. There's a lot of creative energy going. And it's good to be back working with the boys, feeling inspired and making like great, truly real emotion, just great music. I feel like what we're working on right now is super special, and I'm really excited for it to hit the world. I'm really excited for COVID to be over, because, we're going to be releasing some of this new music before we even hit the road again. So it's good. It's a great relief, and it's great to not feel so trapped by yourself in your house.
When you're, creating music during these times, and you're obviously aware of what's happening, does that change the tone of the music? Does that change the tone of what you guys are trying to do?
For us, I don't think so, actually, because we don't really write political music. We don't really write societal music, I guess I would say. And also, to be fair, I feel like it's been done already by everybody on the sun. Everybody's written a song about COVID. Everybody's written a song about the elections. Everybody's written a song about how fucked America is. And it's like, it's easy to write about because it's in your face and it's right there. But maybe we'll take one song from it. But for me, it's like, it seems almost like a cop out from what's really going on. Because for me, I'd rather write a song about how I feel about everything that's going on, about how I feel about being trapped inside, not necessarily staying trapped inside, but, in a sense of like, I've been trapped inside my mind. It feels like a prison here, being more metaphorical with it than just saying, fuck America. America's fucked. COVID fucking sucks. Quarantine's terrible. I don't want to say all that shit, but, it hasn't really affected the songwriting. It hasn't affected the lyric writing, because when we're in the space, when we're in the mindset of writing music, we are focused on just that music, and everything else outside of that room and the music that's happening in that room just doesn't exist.
I imagine, though, that frustration, right, of not being able to play live and not being able to do the things that the band normally does. I often think that when someone's going through that stuff, it does change the colors and the shapes of the music and the tone of the music, or maybe the perspective. And even though maybe you don't write about the situations that are happening, it still affects you. It still affects your creative process in maybe offering up a different avenue of looking at things or speaking about things.
It might. It really might. I couldn't tell you. At least it consciously is not affecting me. You know what I mean? Now, not touring, not seeing our fans, not being able to do any of that shit, that definitely sucks. There's definitely a song to be written about that. A good old "I Miss You" song. But I'll see you again soon,
Yeah. I was out to dinner at an actual restaurant, last week, and I think it was like the second time since last March that I actually went out to a restaurant to eat. It was crazy.
Wow.
So yeah, it's just, I've talked to a lot of artists about this time, and everyone offers up similar perspective, different perspectives. I mean, I know I talked to one, artist that said that he's not doing anything. He's just, it's hard to become creative when you're not living life the way one normally lives it. I know another artist mentioned how this was actually good for him to kind of take a break and take a step back without feeling the pressure of doing an album. And then there's others that, like Tyler Bryant, who I talked to, who hunkered down with his band in the basement of his house and recorded an album and just secluded themselves, similar to what you guys did, and just forgot about what the hell's going on out there and was able to put a record out.
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly what we're doing. For us, it's not break time, because you got to remember, when it comes to being in a band, it's a business and you have to make money. So for us, it's like we could sit here we could have sat here for a year and done nothing. I would have gone crazy though. Absolutely insane, because I need to get that creative outlet. I need to write music in order to feel like I'm contributing something to my worth in life. But at the same time, we didn't want to come out of COVID with nothing. We didn't want to come out of COVID with our hands empty. Yeah, we have an album, we have levels out, but we wanted to come out with more music, more content. We didn't want to just sit here and wait for everything to be over, because before you know it, COVID's going to be over and we're going to have a second album ready to go. And there's a lot of bands and a lot of artists that aren't going to have anything. And so it's kind of like, it seems like prime opportunity to kind of like carve out, I guess, the competition, carve out the people that aren't putting in as much work as you. You will get a lot more attention for having new, fresh content coming out of COVID than you would have pre-COVID.
When you're putting together an album during these times, what's that like in terms of the whole band and the collaborative process?
It's all interesting. So everybody in the band has their own home studio. Some are more equipped than others, of course, but everyone's got their own home studio, home setup, and everybody can record and write music themselves. So a lot of it was us like, hey, I got an idea, I'm going to send you something. Hey, I got an idea, I'm going to send you something. So it was a lot of sending back and forth, different melodies, different hook ideas, different. Nobody writes lyrics besides me, but just different ideas for songs. And then eventually we're like, okay, we have a lot of different ideas. Like we sat down and we're like, okay, we have, I think it was like 40 or 50 or 60 different song ideas. And then we're like, okay, all these feel kind of disconnected in a way. It doesn't have that Fame on Fire sound just yet. So from these 40 or 50, 60 songs that we wrote, they could all be a Fame on Fire song on their own, but they weren't all of us together working on a Fame on Fire song. So what we did was we were like, okay, we got to just start getting in the studio, writing music, working on really solid demos. And when I say demos, like, it's not like we sit in a room together and jam together. It's like, no, we're working in Pro Tools, we're working in Ableton, we're working in, professional recording softwares, and we're putting together these songs to be pretty much perfect demos. So by the time it comes down to, we need to actually go in and record these for real, and we're going to be in the same studio. It's just, we know exactly what we're doing. So we're writing the songs out perfectly, exactly how they need to be. And we realized though that we didn't have that same feel of all of us being in a room. So we've been bunkered down, working, writing, making really great music of all of us being in the same room together. And, there's been a couple ideas and stuff like that where it's like 2 people, 3 people, 3 of us, whatever, come up with an idea. And we're like, okay, let's put this all, we're going to sit down and we're going to get everyone's input on this. We're going to put it all together and we're going to make it a really great sounding Fame on Fire song.
When you're, collaborating like this and you're with each other during these times and you're looking ahead, towards what's going to happen with COVID and what's going to happen with the new material, is there a plan for Fame on Fire for this year and how to approach the new music, how to release the new music, and then hopefully anticipate playing live towards the end of the year?
Yeah, there is a plan. And the plan is trying to release new music by April, May, and try and go on tour during the summer or beginning of fall. That's kind of all we have right now. A lot of things also depend on what our label wants us to do and what our label's game plan is for releasing music. So, unfortunately, we're kind of tied down by that. So it's like, if we want to release, if we weren't signed to a label, we would have released a song probably in like a week from now. We would release a new song, to be honest. So Yeah, there's no set game plan, but we know what we're working towards. We know we're working towards having a second album completely done and releasing that over the next following year.
When you're doing all that stuff and you're planning it out, and you have this huge online presence that you mentioned. I mean, I'm very impressed with the numbers that you guys do, especially with you mentioned you guys haven't really done a lot of touring, and a lot of the presence has been built online. How did you guys do that?
Well, a lot of that started with the covers, to be honest. Doing covers back in 2013 and then 2014. We built that online presence. We built that online audience. We built, a Fame on Fire army. And it started with the covers, and then we released Transitions. And then people are like, oh, these guys can actually make really, really cool original music. Now, Transitions sounds nothing like Levels does, which is in the same fashion. I don't expect the next album to sound like Levels. It's not going to sound like Transitions either. It's going to sound new and different. Now, that's not saying we're going to, go all poppy and sell out like, bands have done in the past, but, we're just evolving our music. And I wouldn't say the music's more mature, but it's just different. It's a different outlook on what Fame on Fire could be. But yeah, so the fan base was built from doing YouTube covers and then releasing Transitions, the EP, and then releasing a bunch of singles. And then, as we were doing that, we kept creating covers and creating more content for our fans to see us, what we were doing, to hear new music that we're releasing, new covers that we're releasing. And then, now we got up to the pinnacle point of releasing Levels, and there's an audience there, arms wide open, waiting for us just to drop this album right into their arms. And, people loved it. It got a lot of love from radio, got a lot of love from the fans, and we gained a bunch of new fans from this album. So it's been great.
When you're creating and you're going in to release or record a new album and create a new album, is it important for Fame on Fire? Is it important for you to come in with a different, fresh approach for every album that you do?
Yeah, it is. Because we don't want to sound like sound like the same band that we were 2 years ago, We want to constantly be evolving, constantly growing, we want to give our fans something different to listen to than what they've already heard from us. You know what I mean? Like, if you want to hear songs that sound like Levels, go listen to Levels. Don't listen to the new material if you don't want to. But I think that the new material is going to have a much broader reach, and is going to bring people into rock music that maybe weren't into rock music before, So I can't stand the idea of sounding the same as an album before, because we might as well just release, or just not release a new album. If you want us to sound like the old stuff, just go listen to the old stuff.
Very few bands can get away with sounding the same. I mean, the first band that comes to mind is AC/DC, and that's cool.
Yeah.
AC/DC does it their way, and it always sounds cool, and that's their deal. But not every band, not every artist can do that. Not every artist can record the same style of music all the time. They have to stretch themselves because you're growing as a person, you're experiencing different things, and what sounded maybe good to you, or the music maybe you wrote 5-10 years ago, you're no longer that same person.
Yeah, exactly. So I feel like it needs to change. I feel like it's like, even as far as AC/DC goes, it's like you guys already go back in Black, and Highway to Hell, and these songs sound so similar. It's like they're massive hits, but at the same time, it's like it could have been the same song, and it wouldn't have changed for me. So yeah. I feel like as far as art goes, you need to change. Like, what kind of artist wants to paint the same painting again and again and again,
Some people just, some artists are just able to do it, and able to just kind of be comfortable with what they're doing and who they are and, flourish under those pretenses. But others, need to, continue to explore their creative side, do things differently and not, be afraid to sound different or try something different, even though the fans may not gravitate towards it. They need to do it for themselves.
Yeah, it feels so safe though. It feels like okay, we know this works. Let's just do it again because we don't want to lose our fans.
Yeah,
it feels too safe to me, and that's not art. That's business.
Yeah, it's kind of difficult to kind of merge the two and also separate the two at the same time.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Bryan, it's been a blast. Love this conversation. Really got some in-depth knowledge. I learned more about you, which was great, and so my listeners will definitely enjoy it as well. I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Jay. I appreciate it.
Once again, everybody, that's Bryan Kuznitz from the band Fame on Fire. I'm Jay Scott. This is The Hook Rocks, the Ultimate Rock Community Podcast. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we will talk again soon. Thank you.
President Barack Obama.
Virginia, we are counting on you. Republicans want to steal enough seats in Congress to rig the next election and wield unchecked power for 2 more years. But you can stop them by voting yes by April 21st. Help put our elections back on a level playing field and let voters decide, not politicians. Vote yes by April 21st.
Paid for by Virginians for Fair Elections.